Good morning, I'm Rose Lee. Each new year offers hope and new opportunities. This episode will share resources to gain financial wellness, find educational choices for your children, resolve conflict through self-discovery, and rethinking drinking for better health. All when we return. Florida ranks 13th in the nation in credit card debt. Debt can be a useful financial tool or an overwhelming burden. For consumers who spent more during the holiday seasons, coupled with inflation driving those prices up, we have some good news. January is Financial Wellness Month. This is the perfect time to learn more about personal finances and how to manage debt. Joining us to help us rethink and take action on our financial well-being is Chief Client Operations Officer at National Debt Relief, Natalia Brown. Good morning, Natalia.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Most of us love holiday giving, but not paying off those credit cards. And now we have inflation that's jumped to the highest rate in 40 years. Natalia, what tips can you share with our viewers on how people can get a handle on their debt and begin to balance their budgets?
National Debt Relief has been able to help over 400,000 people over the last decade get out of debt. We actually found that 70% of the respondents to one of our surveys are really concerned about what you mentioned. Inflation is making them worry about their everyday expenses and their affordability to take care of it. So 2 tips that I have is 1, avoid impulse spending and putting those balances on credit cards, especially if you can't pay them off in a very short period of time. The other tip that I have is to make sure that you're starting a savings account and automatically saving funds, even if it's $1 a day, to make sure that you can, cover expenses wherever possible. If that's not a reality for you, look at your expenses today and cut back wherever you can. So if you're buying coffee every single day on the outside, maybe you want to brew that cup of coffee at home.
Well, tell us more about available tools and resources at National Debt Relief that they offer to help us manage our debt.
We actually help our clients by reducing the amount of debt that they owe. We negotiate on their behalf, and we do that in as little as 24 to 48 months. So for example, if someone has credit card debt, medical bills, or personal loans, we're able to take that in and get them a deal. We find that, if you have about $30,000 in debt and you're only paying the minimum, it'll take over 30 years to get rid of that debt because all of the interest that's added month over month. We actually make sure we take care of our clients. We're there every step of the way, and we also make sure that, we never charge a fee for our consultation. And we also are something called performance-based, which means we never get to collect a fee until we actually get the work done. 95% of our clients are actually really happy with us because they're more financially stable a month after they've graduated, and they also have the ability to save.
In addition to credit card debt, Floridians have new car debt financing with exorbitant interest rates. So how do you communicate this with clients that maybe this wasn't a good decision?
I really actually have a gentle conversation, right? If your goal is to be financially free, you really have to consider what's really important. You may need a car, but you may not need a car that's that expensive, right? So a difference between a BMW and Camry that still gets you from point A to point B, but that difference gives you savings. I just really ask that person, what's more important to you? And if it's driving the car, or is it the debt burden that you're carrying and being able to save? And usually the answer is, I want to be able to save and be financially stable. And that usually gets people to really understand that having nicer things or things that you can't afford isn't always in the best interest of, relieving your debt.
You recently conducted a national survey to have a deeper understanding of the impact of debt on people's well-being. Share some of the survey findings.
It was really interesting. We found that it's not just impacting people today, but it's also changing people's future outlook. With debt comes a lot of shame. 3 out of 5 people are overspending and, hiding that financial burden from people that are around them and people that they love. We also found people are avoiding getting into relationships. They're not getting married, or they're even getting divorced because of that debt burden. We also found physical impact to, carrying a lot of debt, and people are losing sleep over 200 hours per year, which is about a month. And they're also having nightmares because of their debt. And it's happening up to 3 times a week, according to that research. So there's a physical impact, there's an emotional impact, and there's a really, just impacting your entire physical body. And it's really important that people kind of address that.
Natalia, from your experience, what are the best ways for people in debt to overcome these challenges?
One, build that emergency plan and make sure that you can cover at least a $400 expense. And the other one is seek out help, like a company like National Debt Relief. We have experts that walk our clients through their debt situations to make sure that they're taken care of and have a plan for moving forward.
And no shame, right?
No shame whatsoever. We are not here to judge anyone. We're here to help.
Great to hear. Natalia, where can viewers find more information to manage debt on their journey to be debt-free?
Visit us on our website. There's a wealth of information, nationaldebtrelief.com. And you can give us a phone call at 800-930-1484. And you can speak to a debt expert. There's no obligation, and it's absolutely free to have that consultation.
Thank you, Natalia, for sharing National Debt Relief resources to help our viewers rethink and take action to achieve financial well-being in the new year. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well.
USA Today best-selling author Sonali Dev offers a heartfelt short story about one woman's journey of self-discovery and what it means to be happy in the wedding setup. Sonali takes the reader into an inside look at an independent woman torn between her own dreams and the responsibilities she has to her family. Sonali has won numerous accolades, including the American Library Association Award for Best Romance. Sonali is a writer, a mom of 2 daughters, and a wife that is encircled her entire life with love. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Sonali.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
As an author, Sonali, you're known for writing intimate aspects within the family relationship. I'm from a large family, so I can relate. Reveal the center of the family of your newest release, The Wedding Setup.
So this is the story of Ayesha Shetty, who is, who used to be wild and fierce and really comfortable with going after what she wanted. And then a tragedy happens and she loses herself. And the only person she has left is her mother, and she finds herself in a position where she is responsible for her mother's happiness, responsible for the family business, and she basically puts herself away and gets down to it, as we often do. And then 7 years of putting herself away later, she's at her best friend's big fat Indian wedding, where she has a chance to rediscover herself.
In the meantime, while this is all happening, she loses a family member, which is perhaps the most difficult thing a person can face. I know personally after losing my lovely sister. So tell us how your heroine responds to her grief in the wedding setup.
She loses very suddenly her brother, her young 23-year-old brother, to a car crash. And her mother is already a widow. So she's totally thrown off her game because her brother really was the person in the family, as siblings often are, who takes on the responsibilities, who allows her to be the person she wants to be, free and fierce and wild. And when he's gone, she loses that part of herself with him. So there is that piece. And what she's telling herself is that she's doing this for her mother. But there's really that part that she has not given enough attention to, which is that the grief itself has killed something inside her, which she has to do the work to find again. And so, the journey through finding what you lose when you lose people is, I think, what this is about to me.
Ayesha has a great support group surrounding her. Explain what it means for her to be a part of a large Indian American community. Is there stress involved in this specific role that she must play in life?
Like all families and all communities, there is both. I often think of it as bonds that are so tight they wrap you up when you're falling apart, but they can also strangle you. So it's both those things. And the Indian community that I grew up in tends to not have too many boundaries. So you have all these aunties who think they're your mothers, and you have a mother who thinks she's everybody's mother. And so there is, so boundaries are a pretty flexible thing in my family. If I use the word privacy around my mother, she's like, I don't compute. I'm your mother. What do you mean privacy? So that's the kind of community it is. But there's also a lot of fun. It is people who like huge celebrations, big connections. So an Indian wedding really is an explosion of everything that goes with being Indian, whether it's the food, it's the dancing, it's the competitive clothing, which I think, again, is universal, but of course, dressed up in the culture, it's also unique.
Describe how this traditional Indian wedding celebration is so unique.
So I think what is different with an Indian wedding is the length of it. We have, traditionally, it used to be 4 and 5 days of wedding ceremonies. Now there are at least 2 or 3 days of it. And so there is the night before, which is the henna ceremony, which people often combine with the rehearsal dinner and cocktails. That's when all the dance performances happen. And you actually, my nephew got married last year, well, the year before the pandemic in 2019. And we were, all of us in different parts of the world spent hours and hours going over video footage of the person who was choreographing our dances. So, there's a lot of putting yourself out there and kind of, owning the celebration. It doesn't belong only to the bride and groom, it belongs to the whole family. So if you tell, so it's almost funny to me that when people say, oh, it's my big day. At my wedding, it was really everyone else's big day too. So I think in that, that's the soul of it.
Sonali, have you personally had any of the same experiences as your characters that you write about?
Yes, all of them. So I think if you were to narrow all of my books down to one theme, it would be this tightrope walk that women, that women are constantly doing, and I certainly have done all my life, between personal freedom and personal ambition and familial duty and community duty. How do you reconcile those things? How do you, how are you your own person with your own desires and dreams while also creating this family and community that takes a lot out of you? And so that kind of is, I think, the main line that runs through all of my books, reconciling that, so that you can be happy within yourself to let all of this love in and to do right by it.
All right, so aside from the wedding setup, which is great, what other titles do you recommend our viewers to read?
Either Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors, Recipe for Persuasion, In Sense and Sensibility, and The Emma Project that comes out in May.
Thank you so much, Sonali, for joining us to unwrap your world of romance and your exciting new release, The Wedding Setup.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me.
Nationwide, families discovered the power of School Choice Week. 69% of parents say they support school choice, as thousands of families and teachers show support for school choice options. Since 2011, National School Choice Week offers families resources to celebrate learning and guide families to find their child's best options in their school districts. As National School Choice Week continues to raise awareness in all 50 states. Here to offer parents resources to navigate school options is Andrew Campanella, president of National School Choice Week. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Rosalie. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it, and I'm happy to be with you once again.
Andrew, we've worked together for many years as education advocates. Though in the past 2 years, COVID-19 has turned the U.S. education system upside down. And now parents who are advocating for their children and their needs are being vilified. What's happening, and how can we as parents be heard and find educational options to meet our child's needs?
Well, parents across the country are really frustrated with 24 months now of disruptions to their children's education as a result of COVID. And what parents want is some consistency. They want to know the reasons why schools close or go remote. They want to make sure that if they do go remote, kids will have access to high quality learning. Most parents want their kids back for in-person education. And parents overwhelmingly want to be able to choose learning environments that best meet their children's needs for any number of reasons, COVID or not. And so that's why during School Choice Week, we let Florida families know that they have more choices today for their children's education than at any other time in history. From some of the most robust public school choice options in America to public charter schools, magnet schools, online public schools, access to private and faith-based schools with scholarships and homeschooling, Florida is where it's at when it comes to educational choice.
In the past year, 52% of U.S. parents considered or are currently considering finding a new or different school for at least one of their children. How are schools and families celebrating National School Choice Week in 2022?
Sure. So our team works year-round to develop the nation's most comprehensive portfolio of school search resources for families that are broken down state by state in a practical and completely free way for moms and dads. And every January during the celebration of School Choice Week, people use those resources and they start the process of searching for schools for their kids. We work with 26,000 schools of all types, plus homeschool groups, to raise awareness of educational opportunity during School Choice Week at everything from school fairs, information sessions, open houses, virtual events, you name it, so that moms and dads can get the process started of finding environments that best meet their kids' needs. Because if parents start the school search process in January, they will have enough time to find a school that is the right fit in advance of the next school year.
COVID-19 related disruptions continue to affect learning as school closures continue. So what resources are available to support families during these challenging times?
Well, in a few ways, we have developed a free guide to all of the free tutoring resources that are available out there for families. Parents are deeply concerned not only about the disruptions caused to their children's education because of the pandemic, but also how much their children have not learned, what's called learning loss, over the past 2 years. And so what we want parents to know is that there are free online resources that they can check out to help their kids catch up. Because if we as a country don't do more to make sure that we mitigate the learning loss over the next 2 years, kids today will be less prepared for life after school, real life, than at any other time in the past, and we need to focus on this. So there are online resources, there are online courses kids can take, there are activities and interests they can pursue to make up for lost time. And parents should look into that just as much as they are looking into their education options, their school choice options.
Andrew, how many parents are currently looking for a new or different school?
51.7% of moms and dads say they are considering or within the past year did consider finding a new or different school for their kids. And of the 49% who said they didn't start that process, 18% of them said they will in advance of the 2022-2023 school year. So far from being just a concept, school choice is a reality, something that is being exercised by millions upon millions of moms and dads in this country.
So why does school choice matter if a family is happy in their zoned public school?
That's such a great question. If you're happy in your child's school and your child is happy in that school, we want you to tell your story and thank a teacher or administrator during School Choice Week, because your positive story about how you found that school for your child can inspire other parents and let them know that that school is a good fit for you. The other reason you need choices, even though you're happy right now, is because things do change. And in a year from now, if something goes wrong or you find yourself unhappy, you want to make sure there are options available for your child. And the third reason you want to have choices, even if you're not going to use them right now, is because other kids in your community could benefit from them. And we want every single student to be in an environment where he or she is most likely to learn, thrive, and succeed. And all kids learn differently. What might be a good school for one student is not necessarily a good fit for a student with other interests and other challenges.
Andrew, tell us, where can our viewers learn more about how to help their child in education?
Go to schoolchoiceweek.com. We have all of the resources there, more resources on that site, schoolchoiceweek.com, than you'll find anywhere else online.
Thank you, Andrew, for joining us this morning to create awareness of National School Choice Week and educational options parents have in 2022. And continue the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Alcohol-related problems are among the most significant public health issue in the United States. Some people may have found they have increased their alcohol use due to the holidays or stress-related issues caused by COVID-19. We've all seen the videos of people in public starting fights at airports or malls, not to mention alcohol-related traffic crashes. Here to discuss why it's good to take a break from alcohol and recognize signs of alcohol problems is Dr. George Koob, director of the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism and a world-renowned expert to discuss Dry January and recognize signs of an alcohol problem and ways to get help. Good morning, Dr. Koob.
Good morning.
Doctor, the holiday cheer is great with friends and family drinking 1 or 2 drinks, having great chats and conversations. But some people drink excessively before, during, and after the holidays. So how do we know if a friend or family member is suffering from alcohol use disorder?
So one of the earliest and very earliest signs is noting that a friend or yourself even, are making people uncomfortable with their drinking. And so that's early on. But to broaden that, it's impairment in social and occupational functioning, or the way I like to put it is, where you have deterioration in interpersonal interactions, or you're late for work, or you're not meeting work deadlines, or and all of these things are related to alcohol, and those are kind of telltale signs that something's amiss.
Doctor, are some people considered functioning alcoholics?
The short answer is no. Because we don't know how they're functioning in all the domains of their life. And so, yeah, they may be able to get in their car and get to work and go through the work day. But, what we don't know is how they're interacting with their loved ones, whether they're shirking responsibilities with their children, whether they're, sleeping poorly and getting progressively more and more irritable. I mean, these are the parts of, quote unquote, I dislike the term functional alcoholic, but because it implies that someone is actually functional. And they may be functional in only certain parts of their life. And that's, and clearly they're going to be dysfunctional in other parts of their life.
Thanks, doctor, for defining that term. But nearly 14.5 million people in the U.S. 12 years or older have alcohol use disorder. And according to the National Center for Drug Abuse Statistics, 95,000 Americans die from the effects of alcohol use every year. But only 7.2% of people diagnosed with alcohol use disorder received any treatment in the past year, and not always quality treatment. Why is that, Dr. Koob?
What we really need to do is get primary care doctors and anyone else in the mental health industry to screen for alcohol problems and also get those individuals into some kind of treatment or at least given some advice. And that's something we're working on currently at the Institute. We hope to, this year, coming up, provide a clinician's core resource that will go out to everyone who's a healthcare provider on what a clinician should know about alcohol. You know, I think that lack of knowledge about what's available is a critical part of the problem.
You know, Doc, COVID increased our time at home, and many people dealt with depression, anxiety, loneliness, the loss of a loved one, illness, jobs, or other stress-related issues. What have experts observed about the impact of COVID-19 on drinking rates and health?
Picked up about a third of the population is actually drinking more during the pandemic, and those that are drinking more are drinking to cope with stress, and more of them are actually women, interestingly. And so, you know, when you're drinking to cope with stress, you're on a slippery slope because, yeah, the alcohol works for an hour or two, but when it wears off, these demons of loneliness and boredom and negative emotional state come back with a vengeance. And so you end up trying to fix the problem by drinking alcohol, and alcohol is actually making the problem worse.
So how is dry January, not drinking any alcohol during the month, a healthy step into the new year?
It allows you to reevaluate your relationship with alcohol. And so, you know, the way I put it is if you're sleeping better, if your GI system feels better the next day, if you're re-engaged with better interpersonal relations, if you're back at work and really into some of your projects, I mean, your body and life are trying to tell you something, and you know you need to listen to your body. And so this is one way to start reevaluating, your relationship with alcohol.
So how can we help a friend or a family member who has an alcohol problem?
So the two websites we have are rethinking.niaaa.nih.gov, and the other is alcoholtreatment.niaaa.nih.gov. And you can actually find a treatment facility in your locale by typing in your zip code.
Thank you, Dr. Koop, for creating awareness of Dry January and offering resources to recognize signs of an alcohol problem so that we can all live healthier. Have a great year.
You too, and thanks very much for the interest.
Share with us your positive change this new year at facebook.com/Rose Lee Show and follow us on Instagram at The Rose Lee Show. Watch this episode and many others 24/7 at RoseleeArcherShow.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year soon. The proceeding was a presentation for The Rose Lee Show. The views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of this station.